Hello, everybody. Welcome to VanCAF's Spotlight interview on Jordan River. Before we begin, I would just like to state that this interview is being held on the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations here in Vancouver. I'd also like to state that Jordan is in Detroit, Michigan, where the indigenous land is the Anishinaabe, Wendat, Iroquois, Fox, Miami, and Sauk tribes. I'd also like to state that Indigenous lives matter, Black lives matter. We, as Canadians or Americans in Jordan's shoes, have to stand up and fight for these rights for these people, and we need to protect them as best as we can. If you need to learn more information about what a land acknowledgement is, you can visit VanCAF's website and see Wes Harmon's land acknowledgement comic for this year's festival, or you can check out mine, Copulse, from last year's festival. Without further ado, thanks for joining us, Jordan.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm really curious about your art style and what your influences were to create your very unique characters.
I mean, it's been building over time, but I would say definitely like a lot of sci-fi and psychedelic stuff. I think speaking specifically like about psychedelic, I remember being in my dad's truck and going through his CDs, and I found like a Funkadelic CD, and I think it was Motor Booty Affair, and like they have the craziest album covers and stuff. So just moments like that where you see something and it really kind of hits you because it seems out of the box. So
Yeah,
yeah.
your art, it really reminds me of like the floaties you see when you rub your eyes.
Yeah, I get those all the time because my eyes aren't that great. But yeah, I like that comparison. I think it's funny you say that because sometimes, like if you're looking at like a light source or the sun and you dim your eyes and you see your eyelashes and they make that kind of like color spectrum kind of thing. I love moments like that. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it's very like microscopic at times, especially like you do a lot of illustration with circles.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's centered around the circle, and it really reminds me of like a microscope.
Yeah.
And, like things that are like organisms that are like uh under what's the word, observation.
Yeah, I kind of definitely like something I look at a lot. I think it's really fascinating uh, how articulate tiny things can be, and then I think that's where like kind of my obsession with stippling comes from because it's just like a lot of little things that create something larger, which
Hmm.
I feel like is just what we are, like as as humans we're just tubes full of tubes and stuff like that. So I love the idea of replication, and yeah.
Yeah, you're really good at stippling. Like that's some of the things that I find most impressive with your work is like how abstract and organic your figures can be, and your stippling skills. Like you can really capture things to look like really wet or like really dense. Yeah, it's really impressive to see.
Thank you. It's something I try to, keep getting better at, like value scales and stuff like that. Just because, like you said, looking at microscopes or the things I look at have so much detail in it, so I try to give it that same respect when I sit down and do something.
When you make your illustrations, like not everything is figurative or has a face, and when it does have a face, it's usually just like two dots and a smiley face. So I'm curious what your what your thoughts are like from drawing just like an abstract thing to like drawing something like loosely figurative.
Yeah, so I used to like before I got into pen work, I was always drawing like literal faces, and I was really obsessed with eyes and I think before I got into stippling, like some of my line drawings were like just repetitive faces, but like not in the context of uh, like actual portrait.
Hmm.
And I think although I really like portraiture, I kind of became disinterested in representing people in that way. And I think that probably just comes from thinking of my body differently over the years and freaking out about showing my own face, like literally. So I think that's probably why I don't approach it as directly.
Um, what what's your like your creative process between drawing something that's just purely abstract or non-figurative versus drawing like a crazy creature that somewhat, kind of looks like a human?
Uh, I don't know. They're usually that different. Like in my in my space, I'll say I got like plants and stuff and things like that and different art. But I feel like my when I started, I just kind of go for it as whether it's like abstract or based off something. It's pretty much the same kind of mindset, I guess.
Do you, for the um, pieces that don't have animals or figures in them, is that like your intent? Like you're drawing this as like an abstract illustration, or are you like just going with the flow and then you're like, well, it doesn't need a figure?
Uh, I think it's sort of like an abstract. It doesn't need a figure, but I think for me, like a plant is a life form just the same as me. Just because I have a face doesn't make my existence more important than something that doesn't have a face. So like non-human animals or anything like that. And so I feel like the importance of it being like a subject is just as valid for me.
Yeah. Do you you're saying how Funkadelic was kind of like an inspiration to you from their album artwork and their music, and your printed matter video, you talked about how you think it's really important to like get into a headspace or like get into a vibe
Mhm.
before drawing. I'm curious, what are the things that get you into your vibe?
Definitely music and just random things I see while I'm out. Other people's work. It could be anything. Or like I think about in the summertime, I always see like little white moths against like green backgrounds. It could just be whatever. That's not very descriptive. Sorry.
No, no, I think it's very interesting because like for someone like me, I I have I always listen to music when I draw.
Hmm.
I almost feel like I have to listen to it to get creative. Um,
Yeah.
and I often listen to music, like specific genres, depending on like what I'm drawing or like how I feel creative. Um, so I'm just curious, like, are you listening to like Plantasia while you draw?
Sometimes, definitely. And I think usually, as far as music choice, like sometimes I'll have something in mind, but uh, I try to give it a little bit more leeway because I feel like, um, yeah, I'm usually not that specific. It's just like a mood thing. And like, I guess I'm always liable to zone out. And so when I get at the drawing table, I know it's okay to zone out because I feel like in normal life, you don't get to like hyper focus on things. There's usually like multiple things happening. And so once I hit play or whatever on my speaker, it's just like I'm in the zone.
Um, when we first met at TCAF, and we got to table beside each other the whole weekend, um, we spent like the whole weekend talking about Fantastic Planet. I'm curious,
Yeah.
uh, when was the first time you watched that movie?
Mm, I want to say it either late high school, so maybe around 2000, between 2012 and 2014, maybe. And then Chloe actually had the book, so I read the book as well, which it wasn't super long, but pretty cool.
Yeah, I was probably around the same age when I read or watched that movie for the first time, and it blew me away. Just like the backgrounds and even the monsters in that movie
Mm.
will remind me of your artwork.
Yeah, no, I think early on in like my to say early on the illustration was weird, but I feel like definitely a couple years back I was definitely taking a lot of notes from that because like you said the backgrounds were so bizarre, but the way the whole film was structured, it wasn't like the vocal point, which I thought was really interesting in terms of like world building and things like that. Uh, but yeah, I definitely would say that was a heavy influence before I found like something I felt more me.
Yeah, and the subject matter of the movie too is like very on theme to like your illustration, I feel.
Yeah, I think specifically I was really interested in how like how much they emphasize like that's society's need for meditation, and like especially that scene where the I guess the parental figures is like four of them and they're all meditating together, and you know their body starts morphing in different ways, and because of the way the animation was made back then, like it was so much slower and like kind of like it's like clunky, and I was really uh grabbed by that.
Yeah, and just like the word you said before about how you like to give importance to objects or things that don't have faces like plants and how they're like, you know, something so small and to the side people will like look away from or not pay attention to. Um but they do have such an importance in our life and like the
Yeah,
our habitat, and it's kind of like how the mini people and Fantastic Planet were like um, like assimilated and completely ignored of their intelligence, but by the end of the movie they're like respected people.
yeah. I think it's definitely something I find really important because the little things matter, and I think a lot of times, especially like in North America, we're raised to always kind of go like giving power to a structure that's above you, and I think giving importance to everything that's around you is just a a better way to try to live your life because I feel like you remain more open to possibilities
Mhm.
because you give things importance, you know, that people's space is valid. So
Yeah,
that's
another artist we've talked about together is Wayne Barlow.
yeah, yeah.
um,
That
when
that
did you discover him?
I think that was just like a Tumblr find, and sometimes you see like those old sci-fi books, and it's just like I really want to try to find a copy of that. And I want to say either Tumblr or somebody else posted. It might have been somebody posted it on Instagram or something.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, what the fuck is that? Like, let me see that. That's a wild book.
Yeah, his Guide to Extraterrestrials was definitely like a life changer for me when I first saw it. Um,
Yeah.
have you ever seen his Discovery Channel special?
No, no, I don't think I have. I have
They
to peep that.
they hired him to do like the art direction for like a 1 hour alien planet special. It's like kind of like a what if. So it's like
Hmm.
he creates all these aliens and creatures and like the landscape of the whole planet, and it's a lot like his book because they're like this alien's called this and he eats on this and like he survives by like running and all these things, like it's very descriptive of like their characteristics and who they are.
Yeah.
It's all like CGI from like the early 2000s, so it's super dated now. But it was
Yeah.
really cool to watch like as a kid when it like aired in like I don't know 2008 or something like that.
I'm always interested in like so I think a lot of times in sci-fi there's a thin line from when like they're actually but I think Wing does a really good job of like the aliens seem realistic because there's some thought process on like how they would actually like work and exist. And I think it's usually like a thin line of making that work, because sometimes, you know, a sci-fi movie just says something like completely ridiculous and it's like, nah, but when it's done well, I always appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. His aliens are not invincible and can fly and go invisible and shoot fire out of. They all kind of have like one power and a bunch of weaknesses.
Yeah, yeah.
What are some other things that you find inspiration from?
Hmm. I mean, like outside of the art world, I think definitely just like people watching and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. People are very interesting creatures, so I would just say trying to figure out myself and figure out the people around me and stuff. I
Yeah,
think a lot of times I think a lot of times I go to drawing because I'm not usually the most verbal person like in my everyday life. So sometimes it's just like a place to explore and try to figure out what's in your own head, or stuff like that.
your captions for your like Instagram posts are like I feel like they're usually really well thought out. Like the quotes that you write, like I don't know, are the quotes from you or are they from other things?
So I mix and match. I do a bit of writing, and I want to try to do more. But I've been trying to be specific about like the things, my captions and stuff. So sometimes it's a quote, and sometimes just something I've been laboring on. And I think, like I said, because I try to use it as a space to vocalize, I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah, your comics have a really good balance of illustration and poetry. And I feel like it's like a hard thing to capture because uh, most people think poetry as just like text, and
Hmm.
some people will think that it has to be like really dense and there has to be like a lot of like mystery to it all and stuff. Um, but your poetry is, I feel like it's every word is like meticulously chosen and said, and your comics, like a zine of yours might only have like a paragraph worth of text, but it's so thought out that like it seems like you've cut all the fat and you don't need to,
Hmm.
like fluff it up.
That's really flattering. I think because, like I said, in my normal life, sometimes when it's something I really care about, I'm the opposite, where it takes me a while. Like I have a lot of fluff talk before I get to the meat of it, and like my everyday life. And so when I write, I have that chance to like cut it out. I'll rewrite it, or I'll look at it and I say that's not really where I'm at. And so uh, yeah, it's usually like a synthesis of a lot of other shit that people don't need to hear, I think.
Is it like a mixture of like you write the text after you draw, or are you writing and then you draw something and you go, oh, that's perfect to connect these two things?
Yeah, it's usually a good mixture. Sometimes it's something I've written beforehand, and I'll scroll back through my notes and say, "This fits." Or sometimes like it'll be something that happened like directly in my life I've responded to, and I'll put them together that way. So I don't have like a concrete formula, and like a lot of the stuff from Mab was just kind of stuff I was mixing and matching, things I have written and I felt worked well together.
Hmm. Yeah, it's you have a good balance of it, and I think that's like something I find very impressive about your work.
Thank you.
Um, Speaking of like mix matching and like stuff from all over the world, I'm interested in your curatorial skills because when I first met you, you had just published this book right
Mm,
here. Um,
yeah.
and I'm curious, like, how did you collect these artists together? Like, what made you, choose these people?
Just people I'm looking at, people that inspire me. I think that was when I first really started uh, like being on Instagram and using it as a way to see people work who, don't live near me. And it was just people that I thought would work well together, and people that really inspired me to keep making stuff. And I was just really stoked that everybody uh, was willing to contribute something, because only thing I could offer was the book. I couldn't pay anybody, so it's still some stuff in there that I'm just like the ones Haley did for that were just, they still like give me chills every time I look at it. I mean, everybody's work in there,
Yeah.
but it's I'm still like really uh excited about that book.
Yeah, no, the beginning it's a great collection of people, and everyone's work is uh like kind of has like similar subject matter, but is still completely different stylistically, so it's like there's a lot of mushrooms in the book, but there's not a single mushroom drawn the same way.
Yeah, yeah. I think of it like because I gave him a really brief prompt, and I always thought of it like when you sit in art class and we do still lifes, and nobody's ever looks the same. Even if you're sitting like right next to somebody, it's not going to look the same. And I've always been interested in that.
Is that how you discovered Julie Major and like Haley Donamier? Was like through Instagram?
I want to say so, yeah. Like my memory is not like my strong point, but I want to say it was probably through Instagram or through some comic I had picked up at a fair or something. One of those two.
Yeah, it's always cool to go to a new festival and you flip through an anthology and then you find like a friend's artwork in the book, and then you're like, oh man, now I feel like I have to buy this because my friend's in it now.
Yeah, yeah. You never know what you're gonna really come across at the fairs, which is something that always excited me. I think especially like you said, when you find somebody that, or like something your friend did, or somebody made something that you're really specifically into, and you just had that connection with somebody because like I'm glad you like this too. So
Yeah, I feel really happy that Jeanette put us together in the Wowie Zonk room, because I didn't know your art like at all before Wowie Zonk. And then, you go to a convention and you meet your table neighbors, and like sometimes their artwork is like insane and like you love it. And then there's other times where you're like, why am I tabling beside this person? Our artwork doesn't even like look good together, or like, it's two completely different things. Um,
yeah,
so it was nice to come up to TCAF and then discover you were my table mate and that like you made such amazing work.
I mean, me and Chloe, felt the same way. So it's nice when things work out. Well, they say it worked out. And Jeanette, like you said, she curated that. So props to her for seeing that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jeanette. Building
Right?
friendships.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm curious, like, Chloe, your partner, uh,
Mm.
what's it like to like share a studio space and living space with your partner? And how does that like do you think it affects your artwork in any way?
Yeah, I would say it affects my life, and so by product, it affects my work. I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to be conscious. You try to be conscious of somebody else existing. She's an autonomous person that has her own needs, and I'm the same. And our apartment isn't that big, so we have. It's like I don't know where I'm going with that. uh, yeah, I would say it definitely impacts my
Yeah,
work and like
it's
my general outlook.
it's interesting because like Chloe's work can really vary, because she can do really like cartoony style, but she can also do like really hyper realistic
Yeah, she's a fucking
drawing.
wizard, like
Yeah,
a wizard for sure. And I'm always, because we've been, drawing and kicking it together since high school, and I've always been really impressed by the things she's able to do. And so, like, sometimes when we collaborate, I'm just like, you're it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, her stuff is really cool, and yeah, it's so interesting the fact how diverse her style can be. Um,
I,
and
I think we're breaking up a bit. I don't know if you can still hear me.
oh yeah,
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Am I back?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It does say my connection is unstable.
Uh, yeah. So the show we got that's about to be or that's being hung now, we did some collaboration drawings, and like I'm super stoked for people to see them because she killed them.
Yeah, I love your guys' collaborations. Anytime you post them, like you post that Kappa,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Okay.
great. Pink Kappa.
Yeah, I'm excited to. So since we share a space, like a studio space, we can't really work at the same time, just because the table is so small.
Hmm.
So I'm excited for when we move out and get a bigger studio. We could work at the same time, but also just excited to see what she does outside of our collaborations too. So
Yeah, I'd love to see like a long form story from Chloe because I've only seen like a you know, a 2 or 3 page comic or a spot illustration here or there, but I'd love to see what she has to say with a, you know, like a bigger book.
yeah, not to be like putting her mix out there, but she's been working on a story like off and on for a minute. That I think once it comes out, it's gonna be really, really fucking dope. So
That's
I'm
great.
not gonna spill her beans on that,
Yeah,
but
that's for her own interview.
yeah, yeah, that's yeah.
And you're working on like a group show and a book.
So it was gonna be so the show was me and her, and I had ideals of it being more of a group show, but COVID kind of came in and changed my plans a bit. And I am working on a book project now, though, or I'll be working on it soon. I've been trying to get to it since I finished MAB, and it hasn't quite added up. But I think this is like a good time to to get to work on it because I really want to do it. So hopefully I could finish that in the next couple months or so.
Do you do you know if it's like gonna be bigger than a moth among butterflies?
I want to. I want to try to keep pushing myself to like keep writing more long range stuff.
Hmm.
So this one is going to be uh, a bit more sequential, like an actual storyline in a way, which I'm really nervous about, but really excited to try to do and see how that pans out. So I got it all written for the most part, and I'm gonna get to illustrating it soon.
Great. I'm excited to see it.
Thank
Um,
you.
you like a lot of your illustrations are just black and white. Um, what what have you like any? Sorry, let me restart this question.
Mhm.
Uh, your a lot of your illustrations are black and white, and I'm curious if you've thought about involving color more than just like a spot color.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about like more analog color, like instead of doing like the black microns, to use the color microns, and I've been tossing that around. I think for the most part, like my printed work, I just since I'm not like really familiar with digital stuff, like digital color has always kind of made me uncomfortable, and I haven't found like a good segue to what I've been doing now. But I think I definitely want to try it more analog in my free time.
Yeah, I think your work is like a perfect example of being completely psychedelic, but just being black and white. Like, you know, a lot of people think psychedelic art has to have like the entire rainbow and have to be like super detailed and insane and just like you get lost in it all. Um, and your artwork does have that, like you can get lost in it and everything, but I think it's really impressive how you can capture all that, but just in black and white.
Thank you. Uh, Yeah, I feel like since it is black and white, I have to I focus a bit more. I think for me, color, although I like wearing it, I feel like using it. It just I feel like it's a different part of my head or something, and so I feel like my vocab with black and white has really I've been increasing it. I've been hitting the gym with it.
Have
So
you ever looked at your illustrations like inverted?
yeah, no, like actually the thing I did with Matthew for his show, he inverted it, and I almost was like, yeah, let's use that instead. So it's definitely something I want to think a bit more on because it looks cool.
Yeah, yeah. Your illustrations are such heavy and black. It's be really interesting to flip it and make them like really heavy on the white.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to play around with that design wise because when he showed me, I was like, it's something to that.
What are your like? What's your normal size of paper you draw on?
Uh, Usually, so like I get Stonehenge paper and I usually just rip it down, and like for lately, it's been like 6 by 6 ish, around that age, around that range, but it ranges from 6 by 6 to like for the big ones like 16 by 20. But I like 9 by 9 ish too. So
Wow.
it's like a small range, but yeah, just because
Yeah,
that's why I like ripping it down myself because you can play around a bit.
yeah. I imagine them to be pretty big, just because you have so much detail in them, and I personally have such a struggle trying to put as much detail on a small page. So like, I I have to draw uh like 8.5 by 13. That's like the small
Uh,
piece of paper. If I draw anything smaller, I don't get enough detail that I want,
I feel you.
Yeah.
I think 8.5 by 13. I like that range too. I feel like that's that good middle ground in terms of like. I guess it depends where you're working, but for my desk, that's like a good middle ground.
Yeah. I find I like working with 17 by 11, but it takes me like twice as long to like finish a page. So
Yeah,
I figured out a way that to just shrink my pages a little bit more and I can whip them out so much faster.
yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. Like the 6 by 6 is, or like the 7 by 7 is definitely like a this year thing, just for that same purpose time, because balancing like the day job and the time I get in the studio. Because I love doing I figured that out last year that I love doing like 16 by 20. Is just the time it takes to finish it is a bigger commitment.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Um, Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet is that you also do sculptures.
Yeah, Sculpey is fun. I
Yeah.
love.
Um, have you ever thought about doing like a solo show that's like just Sculpey, like not even pick up the pen?
Yeah, so back in college, I did a few, like we had a sculpture class and we did an installation in the house, and I was definitely really geeked on that. Like I made a bunch of Sculpey plants come out of different crevices and stuff. So I would definitely love to do some installation type work with that because I think it gets to the same effect I think I want in my drawings, like something that gets people to like kind of stop and look at something kind of small. So I would definitely love the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to see you make like larger sculptures because like the one that you gave us is like, you can fit in your palm. But I'd be really interested, like you make like medallions with like masks and stuff. It'd be cool to see
Mhm.
those like, like an actual like life-size head version.
Yeah, that'd be dope. Like I've been wanting to do like I saw Griffin Miller Plant Boy on Instagram. He did this wood cutout of one of his drawings, and I was really geeked on that idea. So I would definitely, if I had some more time, I would definitely investigate that further.
Uh, I'm curious about your process with risograph and working with Cold Cube.
Uh, like you mean like how I came about, or
Yeah, and just like what it was like working with a printer in Seattle while you're in Detroit.
um, it was pretty easy. You know, we just had some pretty straightforward phone calls and emails, and they're easy to work with. And I try to be pretty open when people want to work with me. So I enjoyed it a lot. They were pretty much down for whatever I wanted to do, which is always fun for me. So it was. I'm excited. We're actually gonna be doing some stuff soon, so I won't talk about it too much, but be working with them again.
Great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, what about like with Forge Art Mag, like Matthew, like you said the illustration you used for the t-shirt, like you put that in inverted and you almost chose that. Was there any other like interactions with Matthew like that where you really
Yeah.
liked
So the
his
inverted,
illustration?
he asked me he asked me to do the flyer for the baby TV show, and that was the one he inverted. But I think every time he hits me up to do something, like I'm always excited. I want to try to kill it because Matthew's always doing some really cool projects. Uh, yeah.
How did you first meet Matthew?
So I don't know if he knows, but I didn't meet him, but I saw him at what's the name of the fair? It's in Toronto. Color Code puts it
Oh,
on.
Zine Dream.
Zine Dream. So Zine Dream was one of the first ones like I did, and Matthew was tabling there, and I bought a T-shirt from him like really sheepishly. But I think the first time we were introduced was at TCAF.
Hmm.
He came over and we talked. I think he came over and we talked about the beginning, and that's how that happened. I think.
And then you submitted your artwork to be one of the covers, or did he ask you?
So I can't remember how exactly that went, but I did submit, and then he asked me if it could be the cover or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, but I was really excited for that. So, because I think I first learned about Forge because Leela did a cover some time ago.
Hmm.
I was really been a really big fan of their work for a while, and that was the first time I saw Forge. So,
Yeah, Matthew has such good curatorial skills, and
mm.
he's introduced me to so many illustrators too that I like had no idea, but you instantly like fall in love with, and you want to buy every zine on their table.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what about your VanCaf experience? Like, what was it like coming to here in Vancouver and hanging out with people you met through Instagram and stuff?
I think it's always a little surreal and like or like nerve wracking to meet people in real time. Not necessarily nerve wracking because usually everybody's pretty cool and you have a good time. But it's like that like when you've been fanning out over people, and it's like it was cool. I liked it a lot. Vancouver's I like the temperature and the atmosphere seems really nice.
Yeah, it was nice to have you stay with us.
And thank you for that. It was a good time. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the world being safe again and everyone being healthy and getting to do fun things.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I second that. I third it too.
um, have you ever thought about making your own designer toy? I know you're like a big fan of designer toys.
Yeah, Chloe got me into Safubi's pretty hard, and we've been BSing on it, but we've been talking about getting into like mold making ourselves. So that's another thing that's on a list that just needs some time to cook. But I would definitely like jump at that opportunity because it's some really cool Sofubis out here and just like designer items in general.
Hmm. Um, do you have your Tiva toy handy, or is it like in the other room?
I can go grab it if you want. It is another room.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
see.
All right, I'll go grab it. So here's Tiva.
Wow.
Pretty big. Let me see. I don't know if I can flip this, but I'll bring it up here for some size comparison.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got stuff all over here. This is one of 3 bookcases, and this isn't going to stand. You got like Caterpillar in there, and it's like a local ceramicist. I
Wow.
forget his name at the moment, but he did this one too.
Wow.
So yeah, we got some installations going on here, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's really interesting for me to like visit a friend's studio and like look at all the objects that they surround themselves in because I I do that. Like my
Yeah,
studio is full.
obviously.
My
I
studio
think
is
when I
so full.
my bad. What were you saying?
I was saying my studio is so full. Like it's nice. It's like reassuring to see other studios and be like, my place is just as full.
I felt when I first walked into your spot, I was like, okay, because y'all's collection is tight. But yeah, I get that because sometimes I feel like we're crazy people just collecting stuff all the time, but it's definitely like normal and worthwhile.
Yeah, surround yourself in things that you love and
Yeah,
keep that vibe going to keep drawing the next page.
yeah, spark that joy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got to put that battery in your back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that.
um I'm curious, do you have any like shout outs to any comic stores or artists in Detroit that you want to give them some praise right now?
Uh, Comic stores in Detroit. I know Source Bookstore is not a comic store, but it's a nonfiction like black owned. So I'll shout that out. And I know Volts of Midnight is here. Um, I'm actually not familiar with a lot of comic stores in the city, but definitely Source. If you're in the city, go to Source. It's on Cass. It's like a historical little area. So
Great. Jordan, where do you sell your stuff? Like, I know you have an Instagram and people can follow you as underscore a brown recluse underscore.
hmm yeah. So right now, I think that some of my books are at Printed Matter. And I'm working on an online store. But if you want something from me, just slide in my DMs for right now.
I think I think Matthew might still have some of his t-shirts with your artwork on his website too.
Yeah, yeah. And then CoQ might have a few copies of Mab, and I think I might have some stuff at the Big Island. I'm not sure. Uh, Maybe Quimby's. I haven't been really good at like doing my own distribution,
Right.
so
I think you might have some I think you might have some zines at Lucky's, but it's also been a year since you've been here, so they might have all sold.
yeah, yeah. I hope so. I hope somebody has it now.
Yeah, me too. Um, thanks for joining me, Jordan. It was really nice talking to you.
You too. Thank you for having me, and it's good to see your face again.
Yeah, and hopefully, we'll get to do this again in person, and we'll get to
Yeah,
like hug and laugh in the same room, and it'll feel normal again.
I like that. Until that day, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you later, everybody.
Peace, peace. Stay safe.